Hi, Lee. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, and thank you for the invitation.
It's a pleasure for us to have you here. So, to begin, we wanted to ask you what color could define your mood in this moment?
My mood at this moment. Well,
Yeah.
it's very difficult for me to choose just one color because in the work that I do, I work with many, many colors. So if I were to choose a mood right now, I would say purple would be the color I would choose because it's the color of creativity.
Okay.
And I'm in a very creative moment as we speak.
Okay, that's great. And so you talked about creativity, but what does that color triggers as a memory for you? What memory does that color trigger for you?
Oh, well, that's a very good question as to what it triggers for me. I think it goes back to a favorite teacher that I had in school when I
Okay.
was very young, and her favorite color was purple, and she wore variations of purple every day to school. It could be purple, it could be lavender, it could be grape, but somehow purple would show up in her outfit every day. And she was a wonderful teacher. I really loved her. And that sort of stayed in my memory. So it's a very positive attachment that I have to purple.
Okay, that's a nice memory. That's a nice memory. And so, and what is your passion in life or passions?
What is my passion? Well, I think my passion as a teacher is to let people know that color can be an amazing experience for all of us, that it can unleash our creativity. And when people say to me, well, I'm not very good with color, I don't understand color very well, I think that what I feel is my most important aspect of my work is to show people that they are creative and every day of their lives they are creating, whether it's a woman choosing a new shade of lipstick or nail polish, or you're having friends over for dinner and you're setting the table and you go to the flower shop and you choose just the right flowers to put on the table. We're always using color in some creative way. And what I'm hoping to do is to unleash the potential of color for everybody.
Okay, okay, that's great. And so you can get deeper into like your field of expertise because you talk a lot about color, it's your passion. What do you actually do? What is your field of expertise?
Well, I do several things. One of the things that I have done is to write books. And in that capacity, I do a lot of research about color, which is always fascinating. And that's the kind of information that I share in my book. Anything in my various books, anything that I feel is color related and can be helpful to people to understand. Now, that is from a more general standpoint. The average person who wants to know more about color, I teach classes, which I love doing because again, you have that interaction with people and you can explain not only your feelings, but help to interpret their feelings about color. In addition to that, I have to think about color from a very professional standpoint because I work with many companies, whether it be through Pantone or my own consulting service, where I help companies choose the colors that are best for them, for a particular product, for branding, whatever purposes there are with color. It could also be the color of the offices and what makes people feel better in that particular situation. So wherever color is a component of what people need to know is what a color expert is involved in.
Right, that's very actually encouraging, and it's beautiful to hear you tell us those stories. And we've been going through very particular times lately. What is your vision for what comes next, and what do you think the world needs after what we've been going through?
Well, the obvious answer to that is that we're all under a great deal of stress. And generally, you think about the colors that help to relieve stress. The colors family are generally in the cooler shades like the blues, the greens, the blue greens. However, having said that, when people are sequestered in an environment, they've been staying at home a lot, perhaps they've used those blues and blue greens and they look around and say, I am so tired of seeing those same colors day after day. I need something that's very different.
Right.
And so they may want to go to something warm to counterbalance the coolness that they've been surrounded with. I think it's difficult to make a general statement. I think you have to understand each of your clients and each of the people that you're working for and question them about what their needs are, what satisfies them, what is their comfort level, what gives them wonderful memories, what does that bring back to them, what color does that evoke or colors does that evoke. So we can talk in terms of general moods that you want to create. As a matter of fact, one of my books is called Colors for Your Every Mood. And what we acknowledge is that we have certain moods that are depicted with specific color combinations.
Okay.
When I use the word romantic, what does the word romantic mean? If I were to say to someone, how do you want your bedroom to feel? And they would come back and say, I want it to feel very romantic. There are certain colors that we would attach to that idea of romantic. However, I could show that to a client and they'd say, well, those colors might be a little bit too soft. I want something a little more dynamic. So we would then look at a palette of colors that would speak to a dynamic mood. So
Right.
each color has a particular mood that is attached to it. And it's the way that you combine it that helps to evoke certain emotions.
Absolutely. Okay, perfect. And from a personal side, how did you go through this situation and how are you going through it?
Well, I am very fortunate in that I'm in a very creative field. And so my days are always taken up with color challenge. And for those businesses that are having particular challenges, or for those who are simply coming to me because they want to know more about perhaps changing their brand or putting a product out, my days are filled with that kind of work. I'm also working on another book, and we're working on more online training as well. And for now, that is my biggest challenge, to take what I would normally do if I were teaching a class in person, and now putting that online, and yet still getting that personal connection
Of course.
with the students so that they get the information that is useful to them. Of course, I think the biggest advantage about what we've been going through, if you can look at it from the standpoint of advantage, is that for many of us, we now have the time, or will take the time, to do more studying, to learn more, to absorb more, that ultimately will help us when we get back to a degree of normalcy.
Right, absolutely. It's a great opportunity. And
Yes.
talking about opportunity, how do you see businesses adapting or brands also adapting and changing their practices after this crisis? How do you see them moving on? Do you think also maybe that company leaders will focus more on employees' well-being, for example?
Well, I would hope so. I think that out of this has come the recognition that each of us has been under a great deal of stress, and that people will have more compassion for that. But I find that those people who would employ someone like myself, someone who is involved in the world of color, they already have a basis of acknowledging that color can be the answer for many problems. It's just a question of learning what the proper color is, or the appropriate color is for a situation. I think what it might do is to open up more consciousness and awareness on the part of clients, those who would employ us, to understand that color is so attached to emotion that it's important to get the feedback and the input and the advice from people who do understand the subject of color.
Absolutely. As you said, the emotional connection with color is pretty fundamental, as with your story for the purple, for example, with the teacher. Uh,
Yes.
Absolutely. And do you think brands also will have to change the relationship with the customers, and how this experience is going maybe to affect the customer experience into this?
Well, I think there are going to be brands that are going to be doing rethinks, maybe freshening their look, or perhaps trying to get across the idea of being more compassionate and bringing that into whether it's their branding or their messaging to the client. This is a time for, I think, great inner perspectives of being very thoughtful. And I am thinking very positively. I think that change is inevitable. And I think that color is a wonderful way, because even though you may not express your feelings in words, somehow with color, the expression comes across. And whether people acknowledge it or not, they look at a certain set of colors and it does evoke a certain set of emotions. So we can use that to great advantage and reach more people as a result without the necessity of even using words. And of course, on an international level, that's very important, because in the research that we've done, we find that color does speak to people in a very international way, that even though our culture may enter into likes and dislikes, the world now is, we're also tuned into each other, talking to each other, trying to understand more of each other. We are starved for the fact that we haven't been able to travel. I know that I go to Europe, I go to France every year, and I mourn the fact that I'm not able to go there, because I love being there. But we have the wonderful ability now to go online, to revisit places, to see again what we've been missing. So I think what's going to happen out of it is an even greater curiosity and an even greater need for connection, in that we haven't been able to be connected in reality, but we can connect in other ways.
Absolutely. And actually, you talk a lot about the digital. You're trying to bring your courses online too. How do you visualize this digital transformation that we're going through and that has been accelerated given the situation?
Well, actually, so much of what I do is based on doing presentations. I do a lot of talks, whether it be for universities, for businesses, for in-house training, and my own training courses online or in person at trade shows. I think it's just a matter of adapting what you are accustomed to doing. And of course, with color, you have to show a great deal of color. This is something that I'm very accustomed to doing, and my staff is very accustomed to putting together. It's just a matter now of adapting it to an online platform as opposed to being at a podium in real time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Lee, it's been a real pleasure to hear you, for you to share your vision with us, and we really hope to see you very soon back in Paris with us.
I hope to be there very soon. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome.